Welcome to hookandhunttv.com. Hey, I get questions every week about spinning equipment. Jim, I'm having problems with my spinning equipment. My reels get tangled all the time. I always get that big bird's nest between the spool and the first eyelet. Can you help me out? Well, last year, actually for the last 2 years, we've been using the WaveSpin reel. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over with you why that's the only reel we're going to use on the show from now on. Why? Because you can't tangle the WaveSpin. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to prove it to you. And I'm going to show you by why when you use the WaveSpin, you're going to spend a heck of a lot more time fishing and no time getting bird's nest out. One of the things you'll notice about the WaveSpin right off the bat is that it has these little peaks or high points in it. For those of you who don't know, the WaveSpin was actually invented by the bass professor, Doug Hannon. Doug's invented things like the weedless trolling motor prop, a lot of other things that make our fishing a lot easier. The nice thing about the WaveSpin is, think about this, when you go to cast your reel, line has to literally be pulled off the perfectly round spool. That does create some friction. Then you get that line slap. Every one of you have seen it when that line slaps the reel going up to the first eyelet. That causes drag. In the long run, it always ends up shortening your cast. There is no perfect spool on the WaveSpin. It's peaks, so the line isn't pulled off the spool. It comes off the spool. The other nice thing is, with those little valleys in there, when you get a loop, if you had a full regular spool, the line would pull off that spool. That's what gives you that bird's nest. With these valleys, the line goes from peak to peak. The loops ride right through those valleys and get thrown off as slack. I can tell you that all I want. Let me see if I can show it to you and prove it to you. When I go to cast, the best you can, watch that spool. You're going to see the line not even slap the blank. That's because now the line is going to come off the spool, not be pulled off. You'll also notice with the fluorocarbon has a tendency to jump off a spool. That's a full spool of fluorocarbon. Those notches will also catch that line, stop it, and give me more and better line control on my reel. When I go to reel the line in now, the line gets placed on smoother and like it should, because it comes off the spool in a fashion where it's not going to tangle. I'll show you this again. What I want you to watch is watch how the line will come off the spool and not hit that blank. Flows off the spool evenly, nicely, and more simply than any other reel out there. You don't need an expensive reel. You need a spool that's better designed. That's what you get with the WaveSpin. Now, I'm going to show you something else here. When you get loops or twists in your line, what can happen is what I'm going to try to show you right here. I'm going to take a couple loops, put them around my finger here, and let's see if we can throw them inside the spool. Now, I'm going to reel up over that, and we've got loops in the spool. Watch what happens now. The line, as I told you, comes off the spool. Those loops go in the peaks, and it pulls those loops out. You have a regular spool, no knots, no backlashes, because the line harmlessly is thrown out as slack. You don't have any backlashes, you don't have any loops, and you keep fishing. All right, when I just reel back in right here, I put some loops in here to make sure. I got one going over the spool. There's another one right here. We'll do everything we can to give you a close-up to show you that again. It's hard to do it without slowing it down. But again, since the line rides over those peaks, the loops go right through the valleys right there and get thrown off as slack. Right here. Every single time. That's why with WaveSpin, you have the only reel in the market with 100% no tangle guarantee. Not because it's more expensive, because it's much better designed. Now, what I'm going to try to do, there, I just threw another loop in there. We're going to do that again. Another nice thing about the WaveSpin is because you have no line resistance, now my casts are literally about 30% farther because I have no resistance. I can throw that a lot farther even with light baits. I'm throwing a 1/8 ounce head I'm going to have my cameraman stand behind me. I want you to watch how far I can throw a small bait, because now I have so much less line resistance and a better spool that will literally let the line flow out and make my lure go farther. I've got a small little 3-inch plastic bait, 1/8 ounce head, fluorocarbon, which can be difficult to throw a long distance. Check this out. When line's allowed to come off the spool, you will, without question, get farther cast. When line has less friction against the rod, you will, without question, have much farther cast. Another couple reasons why we use a WaveSpin. Hey, one other thing I thought I'd cover with you today is that I was throwing fluorocarbon on the first WaveSpin that I showed you. And fluorocarbon can be difficult to keep on a spinning reel. Well, you saw how well that it reacted on that one. Something else I wanted to show you. So I took one of the little smaller WaveSpins here. This is a DHXL, one of my favorite lures, especially if you're a walleye guy. This is just a great size reel. But I've got braid on here right now. I've got 10-pound Sufix on there right now. This is the rod and reel combo that I'll choose to throw a jerkbait, especially in the spring of the year when the water's really cold and clear. And I wanted to show you that not only can this reel cast monofilament and fluorocarbon well, I wanted to also show you how well it can cast braid. Again, I'm going to have my cameraman get behind me, and I'm going to show you how easy it can be with with a spool that is designed to allow you to cast farther. Just so you know what my setup is right here, I just have a 6/6 medium action rod. I've got about a 4-inch jerkbait on the end right there, and this is 10-pound braid, as I said. Watch this. It's almost halfway across this small pond with very little effort. When the spool is designed the proper way to allow line to flow off the spool, you have less friction, you have less tension. It will allow you or anybody to throw baits farther. It's made my fishing a lot easier. It's made mine much better. The WaveSpin will do the same for you.